Mising'itab kalenjin among ole ichamegei eng olda tugul ole tesetai igere tugetab Kass TV eng saishechu kakoit kasarta nebo tetutieng'ung neichome mising noto nebo Kass Mashinani nebo betutab kwoeng kasi tarik 27 arawetab mut eng kenyitab 2025 ne somanwok kwane Bernard Koech. Kitaune taunetab Nairobi ole karutochi alage eng kandoikab upinzani eng karonetab rani MP nebo Juja noto ko George Koimburi nekonam biik chemakinai akobir inendet kotomo kometo inendet eng komasta noto nebo county nebo Kiambu kondochini neki rubeiwotab president Kalonzo Musyoka, neki minister nebo defense Eugene Wamalwa, neki attorney general noto ko Justin Muturi koboto neki minister nebo kabatisiet noto ko Mithika Linturi ko kaibor emetab kee kandoichoto ole kamwa kole togu kotinyegei serikalitab Kenya Kwanza ak yautyo noto bo namet ak biret noto nebo MP noto bo Juja George Koimburi ole kamwa kole magat eng serikalitab Kenya Kwanza komat koboisie police eng kasuldaetab bolotet ole kamwa kora kole magat eng serikalitab President William Ruto kokon katiaknatet nebo kotestai demokrasia ama eng chutyinet age tugul. Ngepchi ng'alaletab kandoichoto kang'alaldos eng sipitali noto nebo Karen Hospital ole tesetai konyorune konyoiset MP noto bo Juja George Koimburi.
Beloved nation into a state of repression, lawlessness, and political persecution. Despite our persistent calls to end arbitrary arrests, abductions, gross violation of human rights, and extrajudicial killings, the Ruto administration seems to be on a race to the bottom, that is to anarchy. In recent days, the country has been plunged into a disturbing pattern of political repression and targeted violence. Most shocking was the brazen abduction of the Honorable Member of Parliament for Juja constituency, the Honorable George Koimburi, whom we have visited this morning, and who was forcefully taken by unidentified assailants on a Sunday. He had gone to church, only to be later found tortured and dumped in a coffee plantation somewhere in Kiambu, literally fighting for his life. The horrifying incident is not isolated. It's part of a chilling trend where elected leaders and citizens, particularly Gen Zs, aligned with the opposition, are being systematically targeted to silence any dissent against this regime. In Kakamega, what was meant to be a peaceful homecoming for our colleague, Honorable Cleophas Malala and the supporters of the DCP party, was quickly turned into a war zone as police deployed excessive force, including live ammunition, to disperse opposition supporters. A few days before, the same cruel pattern faced innocent, peaceful citizens in Bungoma protesting against the grabbing of the Nzoia Sugar Company. This use of disproportionate force on unarmed civilians is not only unlawful, but represents a dangerous erosion of the right to assemble as enshrined in Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya. Moreover, we have repeatedly raised the alarm over the state-enabled culture of impunity, where political hooligans are mobilized to disrupt opposition events violently. These criminal gangs operate openly, often shielded or even escorted by state security forces. From Busia to Kisumu, Nairobi to Nyeri, opposition meetings have been ambushed, tents destroyed, sound systems and cars vandalized, and citizens assaulted. While the police stand by or worse, collaborate in this chaos, this is no doubt a state-sponsored political terrorism. We also condemn in the strongest terms possible the murder of two Catholic priests, Father John Minor, who had just recently hosted the second deputy president. We also condemn the death and murder of Father Alois Cheruiyot Bet, who had also been paid a visit by DCI officers, only to be murdered shortly thereafter. We are in solidarity with the Catholic Church in demand for justice and holding to account those responsible for these heinous crimes. These violations are not only gross violation of the Kenyan Constitution, but also a violation of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and other international rights statutes, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948, to which Kenya is a signatory, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, ratified by Kenya as far back as 1972, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which enshrines the right to liberty, assembly, and freedom of expression. These legally binding instruments obligate the state to protect, not to persecute, any of its citizens without exception. We are deeply disturbed by the growing role of private sector enablers in this crackdown. We call out telecommunication companies, in particular Safaricom, which may have turned a blind eye, or worse, actively collaborated with the regime in surveilling, tracing, aiding, and abducting of these citizens. We demand that they publicly account for the data they provide to security agencies and affirm their commitment to protecting the rights and privacy of their customers. We equally put on notice all political and business elites, those who fund the goon squads, those who lobby for the maintenance of tyranny, and those in the diplomatic community who remain silent as Kenya burns. History will remember your complicity. To the Kenyan people, we say, do not be silenced. The repression we face today is not just about politics. It's about the very soul of our nation. When voices are muted through fear, when leaders are abducted in broad daylight, and when bullets are fired at peaceful gatherings, the silence of one becomes the silence of all. We urge every citizen, civil society groups, religious leaders, and international allies to stand in solidarity with us in demanding, one, an immediate cessation of politically motivated violence and abductions, enforced disappearances, and extrajudicial killings. Two, accountability for the telecoms and private actors enabling illegal surveillance, tracking, and data breaches. Three, an end to state-backed disruption of peaceful political assemblies. Four, the protection of constitutional rights, including the freedom of assembly, association, expression, and political participation. We would like to remind Mr. Ruto that he is not immune from prosecution for crimes against humanity, which includes abductions, torture, enforced disappearances, murders, gender-based violence, and other crimes. This is not a partisan issue. It's a matter of national concern and international concern as well. In fact, we want to declare it a national emergency. We will not relent until justice and the rule of law is restored and every Kenyan can live and speak without fear in this country. That's the end of our statement. Thank you very much.
Any questions? I think it's very clear. It's a very clear statement. In fact, if we just carry it as it is, none of us here, because it's what we have discussed this morning, and those of us who have mothers just been here, Rigi G sent his apology. In fact, he was also here last night, and all the other friends are in solidarity with this statement. So I really think we shouldn't add anything unless it's something, a question. Oh, great. Tumemwona, sauti imeanza kurudi pole pole. And his wife is beside him, and we thank Karen Hospital for taking excellent care of him. You know, when you hear stories like Mheshimiwa abducted himself, you really want to pray for those people because they are evil. You see the tattered clothes and things. He's lucky to be alive. And so we have one instrument, Constitution of Kenya 2010. And all public officers, from William Ruto to the police constables, must know that be held accountable under the Constitution. Those rights are so clearly elaborated. And so we want to say shame on anybody who thinks a Mheshimiwa like this can abduct himself. And you want us police to believe your story? So I don't want to add.
What do you speak to the National Police Service saying they are unaware of the abduction and they are investigating the video circulating online?
And to add on that,
They are investigating themselves.
he's even called for a presser.
Who?
At 2 p.m.
Who?
Douglas Kanja, the IG.
Oh,
He's
poor
likely to
guy.
repeat the same-
Poor guy. If he repeats it, it's unfortunate. Yeah, there's an abduction squad. We go by what Rigathi Gachagua said last night. Special squad, designed to make sure that there will be no opposition in Kenya. So let him issue a statement. But who will believe a policeman like Kanja today? Where his own people say, oh, Mheshimiwa abducted himself. And the man was almost dead. Okay, so, well, this is where it is. And we are not, by the way, Kenyans are very clear. Nothing will stop them from sending these people home. Are they not even on record saying, afadhali wajitetee because they know they'll go to prison? Well, the former Attorney General is here with us, immediate former. It's really, JB is with us. And these things, we're investigating with tooth comb, with ICJ. Remember, you are dealing with very senior, some of us, very senior members of the profession and members of the International Law Society of Kenya, East African Law Society. And we repeat that when we went for integration of the region, we really were for the rights of establishment. So Mother Karua can practice in Uganda. I can open an office in Dar es Salaam, in Kigali, in Bujumbura. This is the spirit of cooperation. And therefore, we are all subject to the same values and standards. So we are going to make sure that this region is called to order when it comes to human rights, which are universal under those statutes that have been elaborated.
How do you speak to comments made by the Tanzanian MPs yesterday about...
We don't want to comment about Tanzanian MPs.
I think let's stick to the Kenyan situation.
Yeah.
About abductions.
Yeah.
Our own president, just a few days ago, told the Finnish president there will be no more abductions.
Yeah.
We have come here because of the latest abductee, an honorable member of parliament. And we have here the former Attorney General whose own son was abducted. Probably should say a word about abductions that he has called for an end to. JB, please.
Thank you, my colleagues. I've always called for an end to abductions, and we thought when President Ruto, in answer to a question from a foreign journalist, saying that they have all come to an end, and all those that have been abducted and safely been returned to their homes and reunited with their families. Only, unfortunately, to see this latest one of Honorable Koimburi. And just to answer a simple question, on Friday last week, the police who are looking for Honorable Koimburi did not get him. He managed to escape. The police continued to look for him. They arrested his driver. His vehicle is still at the Bodaiga police station. That was Friday. And then on Sunday, he said Troke has to know the people that were hunting for Koimburi on Friday are the same ones who are looking for him on Sunday. It's a simple thing. So, IG Kaja, please, you can tell that story to the bands, not to Kenyans. It doesn't make sense. Abductions and all forms of extrajudicial processes must come to an end in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Former Speaker of the National Assembly, what is the silence? We are not getting anything from Parliament, the current Speaker.
Current Parliament. It was.
I'm told they are resuming their sitting today. That is the National Assembly. So let me not say beyond that, but Kenyans are watching very carefully what Parliament is doing.
And just to ask you a question. When the Attorney General has spoken, are you still keen on listening to Kanja? It's a waste of time.
The speaker is
Yeah, I just wanted, yeah. Yeah, we want to hear what they're going to say.
They are resuming today. So
Let's hear what they're going to say.
Naturally, we will expect that the National Assembly sitting this afternoon
We'll move a motion of adjournment.
Yes, we move a motion of adjournment to discuss, because it's a serious case of insecurity. Yeah. It's just the other day that another member was shot and killed. Now again, yesterday or Sunday, another one is kidnapped, abducted, left for the dead. Surely, we expect no less than the House adjourning to discuss the matter of rising insecurity.
Some of them, by the way, are here. The Honorable Mule, and who else is there? And Mawathe is here. Understanding order number 20, move a motion of adjournment to discuss an urgent matter of national importance. So we expect that. And I think all members now, we give you instructions to do so. And let us see how many others, remainder of what was state captured, hear what they're going to say. They're going to defend this gangsterism by the state. Asanteni.
Thank you.
Chotok ko alak eng kandoikab upinzani chekaindochin ine kirubeiwotab President Kalonzo Musyoka chekaimuch korutochi MP nebo komostab kot neking'ate ng'atutik nebo Juja George Koimburi kosubkei ak netesetai konyoru konyoiset eng sipitalitab Karen Hospital kotinygei ak kakotenosiek chekonyor yekongonam inendet biik chetomo kenai akobir kotomo kometo inendet eng mbaret agenge nemitei komosta nebo county nebo Kiambu. Ko yekitestai ak logoiwekab emet kotekemite taonitab Nairobi ko tesetai committee nebo finance and national finance and committee nebo finance eng bunge noton nebo National Assembly koibe keretab kibagengeisiek cheterter koboto biikab emet kotinygei ak magutik kwai eng ng'atutiet noton nebo Finance Bill 2025 ole indochin committee noto MP nebo komosta nebo Molo noto ko Kuria Kimani akebendi agenge eng agenge akoi komosta netesetai tuyonoto noto nebo The Age Convention Center nemitei South C eng taonitab Nairobi.
As a percentage of GDP. As you can see, Kenya, this is 2023, you're talking about 3.38% of GDP in tax expenditures. Compare that with our immediate neighbors, Tanzania just about 1% and Uganda at 1.44%. So clearly, very constrained fiscal space, and we do acknowledge that. We also do acknowledge the efforts to expand the tax base. I think that's a very noble effort, and I think it's important that we also acknowledge that the Finance Bill 2025 has moved away from an aggressive revenue-raising measure leaning, and we're now looking at more administrative and perhaps tax-based expansion measures, which again is a good thing because we believe that everybody must pay their fair share of tax. Again, we also noticed that in the Finance Bill 2025, there's a deliberate move to try and reduce compliance costs, and we've seen that in terms of the tariff reductions. However, Chair, even as we give you your flowers, I think it's also important that we bring out the pain point, which is the tax policy predictability, and this is anchored in the national tax policy and the medium-term revenue strategy. And the example that we're citing there is that manufacture of locally manufactured mobile phones, they are currently zero-rated, and that was introduced in December 2024, but now there's a proposal to get them to the VAT exempt status. And so the challenge here is that investors are unable to have a long-term view and planning horizon because of this unstable tax policy predictability. So, Chair, our request as an institute is that we look into that. And with that, Chair, allow us to now then move on to page 9, which are the substantive proposals that we want to share with the committee. And allow me to invite my colleague, CPM Abea, to just walk us through very, very quickly those proposals, income tax.
Thank you, Chair. I requested to go to page 9. And this is basically on the income tax. So the first item is on issues to do with the capping of the losses. That's carrying forward of the losses. The bill proposes to introduce 5-year cap on deductibility of tax losses Currently, the law permits taxpayers to carry forward losses indefinitely. To be more practical, I will mention an industry like horticulture, whereby there's massive investment on the same. And then when we look at the lifespan of the greenhouses as such, like after every 5 years, there is a replacement of the same. We feel the 5-year proposal will not give a credit or a fair justice to the taxpayer who is in that business, for example. So as the institute, we are recommending that we have a proposal of 15 years with a provision that those losses arising from investment allowances are carried forward indefinitely. And then number 2, end losses carried forward as at 31st December 2024 will be considered as year 1. This is basically to assist the investor to utilize the investment allowance fully and to allow and not likely to be subjected to the 5 years proposal would be too short to recover the capital-intensive projects. Then we go to clause, item number 2, clause number 11, that section 18D of the Income Tax Act is amended in subsection 8 by deleting the word surrogate parent entity and substituting the words, therefore, the words to file a country-by-country report and notify the commissioner by the last day of reporting of financial year of that group in such a form as the commissioner may specify. The concern here is that the proposed amendment of section 18D, section 8, implies that the country-by-country reporting and notification shall be filed by the last day of the financial year of the group. This contradicts the provision of section 18D2, which requires filing of the country-by-country not later than the 12 months after the last day of reporting period. So our recommendation here is that to file a country-by-country report as prescribed in section 18D, subsection 2, and notify the commissioner by the last day of the reporting financial year that, of that group in such a form as the commissioner may specify. So we believe that there's need to align those sections just to ensure that give an opportunity to a taxpayer to harmonize the reporting on the same with respect to the group. And then page 10, clause 15, that's item 3, clause 15, change of the financial year. We welcome the proposal, and the proposal here is that currently the commissioner is required to respond to an application of change of the financial year ended within 6 months. The bill proposes that where the commissioner fails to give a decision within 6 months from the date of application, the change is automatically deemed to have been accepted by the commissioner. Our recommendation here is that where a valid application for change of the year end has been submitted by a taxpayer, the change shall be auto-approved on the tax system upon the lapse of the 6 months period. The challenge here could be that if this is not automated, there would be a possibility of extension of that 6 months, and even the filing by the taxpayer would be a big issue. Meaning, the same way the iTax system is automated on penalties and interest, we also propose that this be done by ensuring immediately after 6 months, automatically there is that change of the financial year. Then item number 4, clause number 17, amend section 37 of the Income Tax Act the bill proposes to add a new subsection 1A immediately after subsection 1 to read, an employer shall, before remitting the tax deductible under subsection 1, grant an employee or applicable deductions, reliefs, and exemptions provided under this act. The issue of concern here is that the bill requires that all leaves be deducted before computing all deducting pay as you earn. And our proposal or recommendation is relief should be deducted from the computed pay as you earn as it is currently. And to be more precise on this, for example, a person earning an income in a tax bracket of 30% band, the allowable relief deducted could have to be increased from 2,400 shillings to 8,000 per month. If it remained at 2,400, then the taxpayer is likely to pay more, meaning that there's a difference between when let's say, for example, the gross salary, and then you deduct the reliefs before subjecting to tax, there's a likelihood that you will likely to pay more tax on the same. But the current practice is that you compute the tax and then you provide the reliefs, which again will make the taxpayer to pay less on the same. So I think the issue is the wording. And then item number 5 is a proposal that to be a new section under 18F, advanced pricing agreements, that's APS, for non-residents. We recommend that this provision, with an implementation framework to ensure a provision effectively promotes tax certainty and minimizes disputes, it is essential to supplement the regulations with clear implementation guidelines, institutional support, and defined timelines. This approach could help transform the APA framework from a legal formality into a practical, reliable tool for both taxpayers and the tax authority. And our the likely impact is that it will align with the regional practices, promote tax certainty. If implemented, Kenya could join regional counterparts such as Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda, which already have provision for advanced pricing agreements in their tax laws. However, regional experience shows that only a limited number of APS have been finalized so far, largely due to administrative capacity constraints and unclear procedures and limited interest from the taxpayers on the same. So the purpose of APA is to address the issues or emerging tax issues from transfer price policies. And then that's why we are proposing there should be a framework introduced just to ensure that there is a realignment on the same. Item number 6, that's page 11. Let's cross to number 19, amend section 52B on the final return with self-assessment. The bill proposes a deletion of section 52B4 and replaces it with the new proposal to read, every company liable to tax under this act shall also include with the self-assessment and a return of the income, an assessment and a return of any dividend distributed out of the untaxed profits or gains, such due with respect to such tax year, and the tax so calculated shall be payable at the due date for self-assessment. This proposal lacks a time frame, and we are proposing that to encourage tax compliance and efficient administration of the withholding tax on dividends, provide a grace period, each, for example, 30 days after the self-assessment or filing of the return. For example, this will allow, the likely impact is this will help the taxpayer to plan for and organize himself or herself in terms of cash flow, especially penalties and interest could start to accrue immediately. Just a practical example is where you file the tax return and propose bonuses either for staff or directors on the same. And then again, even declare the dividend for the shareholders on the same. So at that particular time is when maybe the accounts will be done after close of the financial year, 6 months. You're making almost the last month of filing of the return. So at that particular time, there could be issues to do with cash flow. So we are proposing if you can give at least even 30 days to align the taxpayer for cash flow purposes and compliance. Item number 7, clause 26A, extension of approval period for income tax exemption application. Sorry, FCPA. Sorry, I hand over to my FCPA Kwaka to continue from there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Number 7 is regarding the time period that was agreed in, with this committee in Naivasha many years ago. And it was that tax exemption applications will be considered within 60 days. What the law did not envisage that time is that it will never happen. And of course, experience has shown, Chair, that KRA, in fact, does not honor the law with regard to the 60 days. So there is this provision and, of course, a suggestion to increase the days to 90, which is not bad, Chair. But we need to add a deeming provision, which then states that within those 60 days or 90 days, whatever your team will agree to, there needs to be a provision that covers the would-be taxpayer. One of them is to say that the validity of the previous exemption will remain, will be deemed to be still alive until the time, and if after 90 days it is not dealt with, then again there will be a continuation or a deeming that in fact the exemption has been granted. And Chair, the Institute proposes to provide a proposed wording to this particular clause by the close of business today, so that those sentiments can be taken on board, just to create certainty, Chair, and also not to create a vacuum in the law, which then will make people to start fighting for no reason, just to remove that kind of possible animosity. That is number 7. Then I go to number 8, Chair. Again, very fast, Mr. Chairman, regarding the taxation of real estate companies involved in the construction of residential houses. The provision here, the proposals here is to delete the provision that gave incentive to those engaged in the construction of houses. Our proposal, Chair, is that we retain it. And why do we say so, Chair? We say so because the bottom-up economic transformation agenda actually encourages the building of houses and, of course, the provision of housing. And once we remove the incentive, are we then going against beta? Are we going against the bottom-up economic transformation agenda? Number 2, Chair, retaining this incentive will in fact support the country's affordable housing agenda, which we are all looking for. And of course, Chair, I must add, this law has hardly taken root. And part of the things that we have been campaigning about is that we need to have a predictable tax environment. And by removing it after such a short time, what are we telling would-be investors.
Although I understand the passion in which you're making your points, but if we go at this rate, we will spend the whole day. so you may want to go, this is what I'm recommending and this is my reason. And
Thank you.
So that we can make progress.
Thank you, Chair. The next item, Chair, is about the proposal to remove tax incentives on local vehicle assemblers. Again, we plead that the incentive be retained, the 15% tax incentive be retained, because again, this thing has not seen the light of day. Again, predictability of our tax environment, Chair. Number 10. Number 10, the first part just summarizes what the current personal taxation arrangement is in terms of PAYE tables. But when we go to the next page, Chair, immediately after that, our new proposal is straightforward. We are proposing that the tax rate be reduced from wherever it is 35% downwards to 28%. Also, incentive, and that is the tax relief, be increased slightly, very small amount, to only 3,000 shillings. And that will give us a tax band of 10% to 28%. And it is not in a vacuum that we say so. It is to spur development, increase disposable income, realizing that we have had increases in terms of affordable housing, NSSF, and all these other things. And perhaps also it might sound better even from a political point of view, Chair.
Chatajitab Kalenjin ko pichaisiek chebo agenge eng agenge cheitun kong'ete komasta nebo South Sea eng taonitab Nairobi ole tesetai kotochi kerutikab biikab emet koboto kibagengeisiek cheterter. Committee nebo Finance and National Planning eng bunge nebo National Assembly kotinygei ak budget nebo kenyini mising ko ng'atutiet neimuktojini kotestai budget noton nenaat mising kou Finance Bill 2025. Kimache kenyoru kamung'et nenwach ko yekiwege konyiketesetai ak logoiwekab emet eng tetutiet nebo Kass Mashinani Arameloitu kainenyu ko Bernard Koech.